Hi, fellow panelists. It's indeed a pleasure to be talking to such esteemed panelists on one of the most relevant topics going around in the cybersecurity world today, zero trust architecture. With whatever is happening in the cyber world, right? Whether it is ransomware attacks, and we've seen recently a list of companies publish top 10 cyber attacks in India in the last 1 year, and these are some very big names with huge cybersecurity budgets that have been breached, right? I would like to welcome my fellow panelists, Mr. Maroj Sarangi, SVP and CISO NSDL. Welcome, sir. Deepak Nair, CTO, Tata AIG General Insurance. Welcome, Deepak. Prashant Deshpande, CISO, Shriram Transport Finance Company. And last but not the least, Vinod from who's the CIO with the Fino Payment Bank. Uh, Hi, everybody. So let's directly come to the topic, right? All of you are playing prominent roles within the industry. When you hear about zero trust architecture, what is the first thing that comes to your mind, and how do you plan to implement it within your organization? Let's start with you, Deepak.
Thanks, Jasprit. I think from a zero trust architecture perspective, see, the world has changed. And I would speak on behalf of the insurance industry or the BFSI segment, specifically looking at the first aspect, which is the people part. The people have gone beyond the organization's perimeter. They are working from anywhere. The second one is even our, IT assets are changing their nature. So we are going from traditional hosted applications to cloud-based SaaS, infra as a service, platform as a service. All of that is becoming part of our, daily landscape of the enterprise architecture. The third one I would say is that we have gone beyond the hardened desktops and laptops to serve our business. So we have gone to mobile devices. There's host of IoT devices that we are bringing into the entire landscape. So that is also one thing which has changed. Another part is that we are not working in silos anymore. Companies are getting together in the ecosystem play where you are consuming services from government bodies, from service providers. You are exchanging data and information and transactions between your partners, the sales partners, and the service providers as well. So with this entire changing landscape itself, and over the last 1 year in the pandemic where people have moved out of office into home and things like that, I would say the traditional architecture, if I may call it the enterprise security architecture that we used to have traditionally, has to be relooked at. And that is where zero trust architecture is coming to play more and more. And it's more relevant today, in my view, because of the entire change that the entire enterprise architecture has changed. So with the enterprise architecture, your enterprise security architecture also needs to come up. And I think that is where the whole concept of zero touch will have a significant play for us. So that's what my opening is, Jasprit. I think this is interesting times, different challenges to balance between agility and functionality for business versus securing the business.
I think, Deepak, you've stolen the show. These were a lot of points that I wanted to discuss while we move ahead in the next 30-35 minutes. I wanted to talk about, enterprise architecture to enterprise security architecture. I wanted to speak about functionality, agility, plus the new ways of normal, right? Who knows what the new normal looks like? In a recent report I read, there's a World Economic Forum report called the Global Risk Report, the Global Risk Index. It's very surprising, right? They had listed that the probability of a pandemic affecting more than 16 countries at number 9 in top 10 risks. And today, 1 year after that report, or 1.5 years after that report, we all fought a pandemic which had affected all 175 countries. Right? Thank you for that. And we'll talk about, how, there are no boundaries between a home and an enterprise, like you said, right? Gone are the days when I used to only access my enterprise applications from a laptop connected to my office network, right?
Yeah.
Today, we're living in a borderless world, if I were to say that. Thank you for those opening comments. Coming to you from insurance, let's move to a payment bank. Mr. Vinod, Your thoughts on this entire zero trust architecture, please.
So I can extend what Deepak said. The kind of environment what we all manage, we are going with is almost similar. At the end of the day, we cannot have any breach happening, be it the zero trust or any other breach that can happen. We need to be very cognizant about it, and we do the best to protect. But how that entire scenario getting changed, maybe past 1.5 years, is on the way it is, the digital transformation is happening. It is on-prem to cloud, then heterogeneous environment. So multiple environments are actually coming into picture. This actually I am adding to what Deepak said. Something which is very much important now, and the kind of security postures that we are actually looking into, considering the transformation, what is happening currently, and what all things can happen maybe in another 3 to 5 years time. With that premises, we put a lot of process control and people accessibility, etc. So what I can say that, as you mentioned, the boundary been changed now. Actually, there's no boundary for people to access any of the system. Earlier, it was actually our head officers and branch officers, or maybe designated locations. Currently, that has been gone from there. So anybody will be sitting any place, and actually they'll be accessing the system. So actually, what is happened is that now zero trust become a strategy rather than actually one of the implementation points. Actually, all the organization actually taking it as one of the strategy point in the IT and IT security environment. How to and what and where all these things needs to be implemented. So also all the organizations are actually taking a lot of focus on the area where to start, because we cannot actually put the zero trust environment each and every component in the organization. So they actually started picking up something which is very critical, where the major action needs to be done or major protection needs to be done. So that is being picked up, and one by one, actually everybody is actually ensuring that the entire spectrum of the IT is actually protected from zero trust environment. So a lot of strategic enforcement actually given in the organization level on the zero trust. Another opening point, I can put the point there, and we can happy to hear from others how they feel about the entire zero trust.
No, I think you've made a great point by bringing in one IT application after the other IT application into the umbrella of zero trust architecture. That means you are also seeing a lot of relevance, and you said from a concept to an implementation level, it's no longer one of those buzzwords that everybody talks about. People are actually working on ground to implementing it. That's great. Coming to you, Manoj, running probably one of the largest semi-government setups in India. A lot of people don't trust government IT services so easily. Your views on the entire zero trust architecture, please.
Okay, thank you, Jaspreet. Okay, let's understand the trust paradigm first. So if you look at trust aspects, there is trust, distrust, and then neither. In zero trust architecture, there is no trust. So trust, you don't blindly trust anyone. So that's the first aspect. When you distrust, then you do not entertain. So the starting point for zero trust architecture, you are blind to trust or distrust. And the first thing that you do is to do a continuous verification of the trust. That means anyone coming to your network or your infrastructure, you do a verification, and that's a continuous verification. It could be transaction, it could be periodic, anything like that. And zero trust is not an outcome; it is a journey. That means we will never reach a zero trust architecture in our enterprise. That's what I believe. And it's a journey that you have to continuously evolve and make necessary arrangements so that the trust factor is appropriately addressed. I'll give you a couple of examples. Suppose you are accessing a portal to a browser. Okay, the browser, the server puts your cookie on your system, and next time you come, that cookie is validated and you are given access. So that no more stays true in a zero trust architecture. Every time you come, you get validated. So that's a major change in both access and authorization mechanism that all organizations use. The second part, I think Deepak spoke about it a little bit. The boundaries. Okay, the boundaries are no more the perimeter of the organization, perimeter network of the organization. And we have to focus on assets and not networks. So our assets can be a VPN workstation that's with an user, and the controls has to be pushed onto the edge of the enterprise rather than edge of the network. So the network is now ever expanding, and the asset need to be the point of protection rather than kind of the perimeter. Okay. The third part and the most important part is the data, what you protect. Okay. Now you encrypt, you put privacy controls, you put security controls. Is there something more that you can do? The answer is probably yes. So all the while, we encrypt the data so that the data, if stolen, cannot be used. We put privacy control, so there is disclosure, control on the disclosures. We put security control, so there is access and authorization control. Is there something more that we can do? The more that we can do is validate these controls repeatedly when access is provided. And this stays true both for individuals or people accessing and machine to machine access, or anything which is application to application access. So
Perfect.
that's the kind of paradigm change that has come. Okay. Yeah, over to
So,
you.
thank you so much. Starting from trust to de-trust to going all the level down to data to talking about privacy, and we'll come to that, right? In one of, I have a question in mind, especially for you, Manoj. Maybe I'll start with you when I come there. Prashant, with somebody who's again dealing with tons and tons of data day in and day out, looking at so many endpoints, zero trust architecture would really come in with a lot of value, right? What are your thoughts there?
See, at Sriram, as the other panelists already informed, as because of new normal, everybody is starting working from anywhere. Okay. And beyond that, as a business, we have, few ecosystem which also comes in the picture. Okay. So as you know that Shriram deals with the truck drivers. So luckily our customers are not using technology as such. But when we are providing a services to them, we have a lot of other ecosystem partners where we integrate with their system. So as they rightly said, zero trust one within the internal employee, then with the external parties, and then the third, the integration, the API integrations and all the integrations we are doing with different service provider. Okay. So everywhere, it's going to be a challenge. So how we have targeted this zero trust is that the first thing is that we say, we've defined the, I'll say, resources which, needs to be protected. That is the first part. So that you put any control, but the base system, which is, the core system which you are going to have, unless and until it is in a secure state, irrespective of the best practices it you put, it will be of no use. So the first thing we have targeted is that the core or the information, the whatever we're dealing, whether that is in secure state. That is the first. Second, what we have targeted is that a policy driven access to all the outsiders. And when I say outsiders, including my internal employees and everybody, it's a policy driven approval. And the third and the most critical part is the secure communication. So when the connection is established, we need to ensure that communication should be there. So effectively, there are a lot of tools available, like when you can have private access and all those things. But if we, target these three pillars, okay, as everyone say rightly, zero trust or zero kind of a myth. But yes, we need to reach towards that. And these are the main three pillars where you secure the things, you will be in the right place.
Perfect. So putting a pillar strategy in place where if you put all the three pillars that you spoke about,
Yeah.
we'll be in the right place, right? To talking about people who don't understand technology, who are your end users, right? So now I will start with you, Manoj, like I promised, right? When you were talking about going to the last level of data, the question I have for you is, what are some of the biggest barriers when you started implementing zero trust in your organization? I'll tell you why. Uh, we go to a lot of board meetings, right? Being part of EY, right? And we a lot of CIOs, CTOs, even the CEOs ask us what's happening from a cyber perspective. So when we talk about zero trust architecture, they say it was managed services 3 years ago. Last year it was cloud. Now it is zero trust architecture. God knows what it will be next year. Will it be AI, ML, quantum computing? They don't know what's going to come next. So I'm pretty sure when you would have spoken about zero trust architecture in your organization, you would have faced some of these barriers. But I would, before I go to others to listen their viewpoints on this, I would start with you, Manoj.
It's a journey. I told you as earlier. Okay, when you talk about the data endpoints or the leaf of the data that you were speaking about, the main challenge that you encounter is the visibility. If you have complete visibility of data, then you know how to protect it. That's the first challenge that you kind of encounter. And a lot of organizations, you can only protect the data that you know about, and if you have classified the data appropriately. Classification control of data is very important if you have to kind of protect data appropriately at the various stages.
Perfect. Manoj, I'd like to cut you in. You've again used one of the questions which I would probably want to ask, right? You spoke about visibility as probably one of the most eminent people in the industry. Would all of you have 100% visibility of your data in your organization?
That's a good question to answer. I would probably kind of let others answer that before I answer that question.
Sure. And so we can start with Vinod.
Yes, please.
So I would say 100% in terms of from a design perspective or architecture perspective, we all assume that yes, I have visibility.
Superb, sir. You've answered my question. I will not go to others. Right? Yeah, Manoj, please continue.
Okay. So that is the reason when you talk about the endpoints, from traditional antivirus, you have now EDR, then XDR. XDR is a paradigm shift from the EDR because of the visibility requirement, not only in terms of malware and attacks that are happening, but also in terms of what data is moving around in my organization. If you're asking me, I'd probably kind of resonate with what Mr. Vinod told, that from a design perspective, we have visibility of the data, but actual on the ground, I wish I have the visibility of data the same way that it has been designed. But the thing is, again, we are now, see, if you look at the paradigm of zero trust, the verification forms a very, very important part of the trust mechanism, zero trust architecture. So verification has to be at every stage, and it has to be asset based and not based on the perimeters. So that is how you will improve the visibility of data at different stages, and that will probably go a long way in protecting the organization. I hope that answers your question.
Superb. Thanks to all four of you. I saw a lot of people, nodding their heads, right? When Mr. Vinod said that from an architecture perspective, he seems to have the entire visibility. I wish this was true for 100% of the population. Been with EY for about 15 years, work with almost all CIO, CISOs. I can tell you, we're a little bit far from the truth. But thanks for that bite, Vinod. I'll keep that in mind. So let's go to Deepak. Deepak, the same question, right? What kind of barriers did you encounter?
While I was hearing, you telling that how do you present it to the board? I think I am very fortunate to be working for a company like Tata AIG, where the board is actually asking, what is your next level security architecture? How are you protecting us? So I think the board today is well aware of the threats which are out there. The cyber security and the information security threats everybody is aware of, and board is actually asking the question of how are you doing and taking the organization to the next level. While you are doing a lot of things in automation and enterprise architecture, how are you actually, what is your plan for protecting the organization, right? So I think within that entire security architecture, the security 2.0, which I call it security architecture 2.0, zero trust is one of the key elements from a protection perspective in terms of looking at all these components which form the zero touch architecture, be it cloud, be it devices, be it people with access, be it protection of the data, be it network architecture. How can we protect the network so that if someone breaches one area of it, he should not get access to the entire network? How can you create those smaller segments and protect those zones? So it's a multi-component, multifaceted approach to architecture that one has to take. And I think selling it is not a problem internally, because it's actually the other way around. It's like the management or the board is putting the right amount of pressure on the organization to start thinking about controls,
Super.
especially in the BFSI. If you see the BFSI segment, data is paramount. I mean, of paramount importance. That is the key. And any kind of a trust breach is like, we are in the business of trust, so we cannot
Sure.
risk that. That is where I think it's about how do we do it, rather than whether you should do it or not.
Perfect. Vinod sir.
I think I will have to resonate a lot with Deepak, because the nature of the industry what we have. So that plays a lot of reason in this entire way. So I was about to say the same thing what he said. Then banking, actually, RBI insists the board of 30% of the board of directors actually should go to IDBRT prescribed information security learning. MD is mandatory. All the CXOs are mandatory to undergo the training. So this actually brought a lot of know-how, and the board is started asking the question, actually, rather than actually we present this is what we where we are. They insisted, okay, these are things which we would like to know in the board of meeting. So the entire scenario changed from maybe last 2 years. Everything is actually changed, and all the CXOs are aware the criticality of the data, and how the data should be protected, and the importance of all these things. That actually changed the entire way of functioning the IT and IT security. So from the question you asked, what are the challenges or
Barriers, yes.
barriers that what we face? What I can say that the zero trust is a very natural fit for smaller or modern organizations. But when it is coming to a large enterprise, a lot of things needs to be taken care. Rather than actually, the thing is that, like Manoj mentioned, and we can actually protect a lot of core systems. But today, with the heterogeneous environment and multiple geographies we are spread out, the kind of loopholes in the entire architecture or the design is too large. So we need to be so careful, much careful about how the entire protection design needs to be put in place. And it become each and every step become very critical. That no, we need to know the business, we need to know the employees and their roles actually, and the type of access they require at any point of time, rather than actually where and what kind of access they require, and the prerequisites each and every business verticals which is asking for data to be accessed, because all the business is asking, they want everything. Whatever you ask under the sky, they need everything. All the access to be provided at any point of time anyway. They ask that only. How IT and IT security can actually work with the business and to ensure that, okay, these are the controls that we need to put in place. This is the way the business can be run. While actually we encourage the and support, the full support is actually given to the business. Same time, it is the importance of the data to be protected. That actually goes into the complete know of the team organization. So
Super.
pushing that become challenge. But I'm sure that everybody learn to live with it, and they understand the importance, and people are actually moving it.
So you're saying business aligned with security, trying to push the boundaries to see what all we can do together, right? And then business understanding what is security all about, and actually being a co-seat on the table, right?
To mention one more point on that, all of them started understanding the reputational risk that can bring if there's a data breach. That is actually something which is pushing the entire business team to
Totally agree.
security.
Totally agree. I'll give you an example, right? 3-4 years ago, when you used to go to board meetings, the board meeting used to complete, and then they used to have a 5-minute slot on cybersecurity. Now, every board meeting, we are the first ones to present, and every CEO, CXO just gives us one exam question. I don't want to get up in the morning and see my name in the Economic Times because of a data breach. That's how fearful they've become of a data breach. Like you rightly said, right? The boards are getting concerned on I should not be breached. Prashant sir, over to you. In your organization, where especially the technology knowledge may not be as equivalent or may not be as mandated, from a regulations perspective as a RBI is. How do you cope up with implementing some of these new technologies like zero trust?
Yeah. So as you rightly said, rather than a slot, now we have a separate day in our board to present the entire IT and IT security to our
Wow.
independent directors. So we spend the entire separate day with all the teams, including CIO, CRO, and present to our board. So the barriers, clearly, I will say the first and most critical barrier will come is the end user experience. Okay. Irrespective of the state of art, security, everything controls you build, the end objective will be that it should not affect my end user experience. Okay. And as Mr. Vinod also told, the data visibility. So though he says as architecture wise we have data visibility, but that data visibility, to design a zero trust network access becomes a very critical. Okay, because when we are going to give access to the outsider, other than the I'll say other than the end user, to anyone, okay, we need to ensure that a simple formula, he should get the access to the application and not the network. Okay.
Wow, very good.
Yeah. So he should have access to the application which is supposed to do, rather than having access to everything which is not need to know. Okay. So the designing that part is, is a time consuming activity, and we should ensure that yes, you come, you just do the app you want to work and just move out. Okay. Rather than looking everywhere. And the
So need
third,
to know basis. Need to know basis.
need to know and need to do basis basically. And the third and most thing is that nowadays this user authentication is not a static, it's a dynamic. So it is, as good as every time, you need to strictly, I say, enforce, before allowing him to access. Okay. And that should happen automatically, that you should know the person who is coming. Okay, what was his behavior last time, whether he's coming with some threats. Okay, whether there is any challenges will be there. So I'll say for every access, for each user, for every time, it has to be dynamic, and we have to enforce the strict access policies to allow him inside.
I think superb example of giving access to applications, not to network, restricting access, looking at what access from a need to do basis, need to know basis to what I need to do basis. I think some excellent points. A very, very generic question to all of you. Is zero trust actually a possibility or is it a myth? I think one of you mentioned this, right? And let's go in the reverse order. And I will start with Vinod before I come to Prashant. Vinod, is it a myth or is it actually possible? It's like zero risk, right? Somebody in one of these conferences asked me, "What's the safest computer in this world?" Right? And I will ask you this question, right? What's the safest computer in this world? Anybody wants to take a guess?
The one which is switched off, we can.
Human.
Switched off. What about you, Vinod? What is the safest computer?
Human.
Human. Okay. So, Manoj,
One is disconnected and switched off.
superb. So that's one part of the answer. I was attending a conference and somebody told me a very beautiful example. It has stayed with me. He said the safest computer on this earth is one which is switched off. It is actually turned off, disconnected from the network, put in a big carton, rolled with chains and thrown in the ocean. That is the most safest computer in this world. So coming to you, Vinod, is zero trust a possibility or is it just a myth?
So I think we all answered the same thing. So it's like that mathematics is 10 to 0, and we believe that we need to believe that we have tried our level best. But at the end of the day, it's a myth that 100% zero trust can be done, because we don't know at this point of time on what bomb I am sitting on. So a lot of assumptions we make, and according to the assumptions and the global scenarios, we build a lot of, as you said, the chains and barriers and everything in internal security, perimeter security, everything. But end of the day, so the other definition itself, the zero trust is something which we are not aware of what kind of threat is sitting inside or outside. But yes, all the organization go with all the possibilities, all the known possibilities, and try the level best to identify and protect all the unknowns. But still, it is a myth. It can be broken at any point of time.
Superb.
Just, I have one analogy to put here.
Sure.
So, be it information security, security architecture, zero trust, anything, it is like walking up a downward escalator. If you keep climbing up, right, the escalators keep going down. Like it's like you're constantly working, trying to go up. But if you do not do that, you'll be thrown out. So you have to keep working on
That is excellent.
Deepak,
I will use it in my next conference. Thank you so much.
So that is the challenge that we all face. The information security threats are evolving. I mean, the perpetrators, they are the real experts because they keep finding new ways of doing things, right? And we are catching up. It's like catching up that running train which is going ahead of you. Should we do it? Yes, we should keep doing it. Otherwise, we will not exist. It's an existential crisis, and we have to keep trying to achieve that. There is no perfection, of course. If we achieve that same thing, saying that we are completely secure, then you're living in a fool's paradise. But we have to keep working. We have to keep investing. We have to try our level best to not be the easy target.
Super.
Yeah, only to add one thing, actually, it's a final one, but the best uses of AI and machine languages are actually the hackers and the breakers. So rather than actually somebody who is actually building the other AI and ML systems, because they know how to break and what data to be checked, and quick action, quick enablement of AI and MLPs.
Superb. Great. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Manoj.
Let me rephrase what you told. You told, does zero trust means zero risk? Absolutely no. But can we achieve zero trust? Yes, we can achieve zero trust, but does it directly translate to zero risk? Absolutely no. See, strength of the lock is actually directly proportional to the determination of the thief. So that means, if you have an asset, there is a risk, and whatever you may do, you do zero trust mechanism or do any architecture security, layered security, anything that you put, you still will have a residual risk to deal with. So risk is never going to be zero, even with zero trust or any other security architecture that you put forth. So that's a simple, I think, explanation from me on the zero trust aspect. Zero trust can be achieved because, see, trusting a device, trusting a human is something that you can probably control to machines, logics, and other mechanisms that are available with you. But does that translate into zero risk? No, absolutely not.
Superb. Prashant.
I think, yes, everybody says that zero trust is a myth. Is it possible? Yes, it's a constant cycle, I'll say, where you need to revisit what you have done. And the best example I will tell you in BFSI, like NBFC angle, is that, this pandemic taught us that whatever we thought we have done, a state of art, everything is there, has changed everything. Just to give an example, the customer categorization, the customer profiling, which underwriting team used to do, and they used to rate the customer A, B, C based on their income and all those angles. And this pandemic has changed everything. The A becomes C, the C become A, and this has changed. So in our technology world also, if we don't, we are not ready to change, or if we don't constantly monitor and do review or evaluate our controls, I think there'll be a scenario, the entire control, the entire technology which we have built or which is in place will become obsolete, and a new kind of threat will emerge, and then we'll feel, oh, again we have to start from zero. So it's a myth, but it's a constant cycle which we needs to be reviewed continuously.
Myth, not a myth, continuous cycle. Zero trust can be trusted. Superb. It's like walking on a backward escalator to RBI mandates it to board meetings. I think superb. Now let's do a reverse thing, right? Deepak did this. He explained zero trust very, very beautifully in a common layman's language. Let's take a challenge, right? let's all try and give one example on people listening. This may not everybody understands what zero trust is. Can we define what zero trust is for a layman who does not understand anything on security? And I will take volunteers, whoever goes first. I can go first. I was thinking zero trust probably is like, somebody designing an architecture of an house. You design the entire architecture and then you build in different layers, right? Anybody can come to my living room, but to get to my guest room or my bedroom, you need a key. And then you have different lockers, right? You used to have lockers earlier, like a digital locker. Now, any other examples you can think of, right? It would be really interesting for the audience to listen to this piece.
Like you rightly mentioned, Jaspreet, it is about the zero trust concept is about access and limiting the access and ensuring that whoever is accessing is the right person and accessing the right thing that he's supposed to access and not accessing anything beyond what he's supposed to access. Right. So if I am authorized to do something, first of all, I need to get authenticated. And that is where multi-factor authentication is coming in, because passwords and user IDs are no more enough. So first is to identify. Second is to restrict. Restrict to do what he is supposed to do and nothing beyond it. And for that, whatever you need to put as barriers, you need to put that in the environment, in the security architecture, in the network architecture, data architecture, system access architecture, all the other components, so that this is what he is able to do and nothing more. That's like putting it in a very simple layman.
Superb. No. Thank you, Deepak. Great example. Manoj, anything that comes to your mind?
Actually, the example that you gave, that was the example I thought of when you
no problem, sir. No problem.
Mentioned about it, but a slightly different way. I'll allow you inside my home if I can check your biometric and see that is okay for authentication, and then if you ask for a cup of tea, I'll again authenticate to whether you are authorized to have that or something like that. So I was thinking the same line, but I think the example that you gave was pertinent and I think very appropriate.
Thank you, sir. Prashant, Vinod, any closing comments, sir?
Yeah. So I just in one liner, I think the zero trust for me is that how to protect our private information or assets, okay, from malicious insiders, okay, as well as the unknown guys. So if I can achieve this, I'll say it's a zero trust, because even you cannot trust insiders also in zero trust. They can come through a compromised accounts and anything. So how to protect your critical informations or assets from insiders as well as unknown guys.
Superb. Mr. Vinod, sir, closing comments from your side.
So I would say if you want to stop breaches, zero trust is the best thing to implement in. And let us make sure really we are actually putting maximum effort to ensure that zero trust is there in place. It can protect maximum of the data in the organization.
Superb. I think probably I had one of the best times moderating this esteemed panel. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Vinod, Manoj, Prashant, everybody. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaspreet.
Thanks, Jaspreet.
Thank you. Be safe. Bye-bye. Thank you.